You know, there were times when I had one sentence, and I have 4 errors in that.
Mic down.
You can mic down.
Yeah,
Back.
just a
Okay.
little, just a
Well, you
little.
can hear me basically without the mic, I think,
When it's
right?
at that level, that's perfect, because it's just enough ambient.
Okay, all right. I just have to be able to see. All right, so anyway, so you'll find my house despite the spelling. If you can help out, but that's minor stuff. From there, go to the next one, we head down to Seamans Neck Park, which, as you can see, is right on the water, so on Great South Bay. It's a fantastic site. We have water pretty much surrounding us. It's a beautiful park. The most important thing is that the town of Hempstead very generously leaves the bathrooms open for us. So in the middle of the night, instead of a cold, cruel, hot porta potty, you're in a relatively warm bathroom. So we want to stay overnight.
Ken,
Yes.
you're projecting the wrong window for the slide. You're showing us, you're not showing us the slideshow presentation. So you either have to swap, click the menu in the upper left corner and swap screens, or you have to stop the share and share the right window.
You're seeing the notation on the left-hand side?
No.
Yeah, we're seeing the, right, we're seeing the view.
PowerPoint view, right, to share, not the slideshow.
So,
What you share, what you share.
Or share and then put it into slideshow mode. There you go. There you go. That's it.
Okay, all right. And again, it's a little bit light to really see, but you can see that down by the water is a very nice arena right next door.
Lower the mic.
You know,
keep the mic there. Otherwise, there's too much reverb and it's not gonna
I
record.
got it. It's my voice projection. Anyway, so it's really great. It's just coming down to be there, be part of it. We've always had a nice time. It's spectacular. And we're very pleased that the town of Hempstead allows us to use that. Go to the next slide. So,
One second, it's not. There we go.
so again, a little hard to see because of the lightness, but the ultimate picture is that you see that rectangle on the kind of lower left-hand corner. As you look up there, those are our positions, those are our tents, those are our stations. That's the final product that we're looking for help to make sure that we end up that way. By the way, this will go up on the website when it's all finished, hoping that the audio is good. So if you need to go back and look at it, it'll be there. But in any event, it's a spectacular site. That's our end goal, and this is how we're going to get to it. And okay, and again, looking at it from ground level, and you know, we've changed from year to year, but this is what it looks like as you're walking down that sidewalk. All of our stations go along one way the first year. I remember the days when my belly made me go like this. So there was a time when we thought it would be cool to go all the way around this walkway, which was fine, except we kept walking and walking and walking, and we all got very tired. So it made more sense to bring everything close together, plus it's the antennas that are further apart. So everything's close together as you participate or whatever, you're not walking far, and all of our stations are there. Go to the next one.
Setup begins at 7 a.m.
Setup begins at 7 a.m. Very often we begin setup and we stop for breakfast, and everybody says, let me finish my breakfast a little more, another cup of coffee, another bagel, or whatever. No, 7 a.m. we're going to start to set things up. When we've done the first basic things, we'll then stop, have breakfast, and then complete. There's no reason why we can't be up and complete by noon time, by 1 o'clock. The idea that we have to be still at 2 o'clock, messing around with things absolutely makes no sense. So 7 o'clock, we begin. And what do we begin with? We begin with building the main tent, our 10 by 10. Why do we make that so important? 4 years ago, perhaps, we had maybe even more, we had a tremendous rainstorm. Well, these tents, for the most part, small ones, are not designed to handle volumes upon volumes of water. Most of them, it comes from the roof down as a V. There's nothing here. The water collects, hits the bottom bar here, and the next thing you know, you have 25 gallons of water at 7 pounds a gallon, or 50 gallons of water at 7 pounds. We lost one tent, and we struggled to put together one tent. Our equipment was getting soaked. The wind is blowing. We just panicked. So we said, one thing that we have to do is to make sure that there's a safe tent. And that safe tent is our 10 by 10, which, go to the next slide, takes us time to build. Next slide takes us time to build. And next slide takes us time to build. I think there's one more slide. So I'm trying to emphasize that it takes time to build this. It's a little more complicated than it should be. But as you look at this, you can see it clearly. If you lay out the parts, there's 8 parts that are exactly the same size. 8 poles. They're the legs. They can't be anything else. 8 poles. If you look at the horizontal at the bottom, you see 3. But you also see the same 3 at the roof line and the same 3 on the other side. So there's 9 poles that are exactly the same. And then when you look at the shorter pole coming from the roof down to the sides, you see that there are 4 poles, another 4 on the other side, so there's 8 of those, but obviously shorter. Where we run into our biggest problem, and we need at some point, maybe someone, Larry, will come down and mark parts. I don't know. Larry's our go-to guy this year. The problem is the angle piece at the top is different than the angle piece on the side. Sometimes people argue that, no, it's the same. No, it's not the same. Piece on the sides come down at an angle and then straight down. The roof is going at a more general angle. So if you can identify those pieces, you immediately will be way ahead of the game. And there's only 4 pieces on the roof that should be different than the 8 pieces that are down below. That's always been our biggest problem. But if you get that out of the way, the tent is up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the finished product. This is the finished.
Our biggest problem isn't that all the pieces are different. Our biggest problem is finding the couple of people who know which pieces they are and following them. Instead of everyone looking, oh, but this piece is different. There are some of us who know exactly how it goes.
And hopefully others will learn so we don't have this problem. But again, just remember, there's 8 legs, 8 shorter pieces, and 9 of the other ones. And then you just have to find the pieces that the joint. Now, for example, in the joints, that angle piece at the roof, there's one that goes on the end. Well, it doesn't go in both directions. It ends and goes forward to make the roof line. So you'll see that there's 2 of them, and obviously they go in the end. Can't be anything else. Anyway, with some instruction, we should be okay with that. Go to the next one. Now, if that's still the big tent?
The square ones.
Okay, so now we hope to have a lot of people there. When the big tent is being assembled and staked in the ground for sure, at that point, others can move on to the 10 by 10 tents. The 10 by 10 tents have to be handled gingerly. We've broken some ourselves, but what happens is there's a rush to open them up and pull them apart. It's like an accordion. But you pull it apart too fast, you break a plastic piece. And that happens all the time. And some of these tents cost us more than $200. We don't want to have a piece broken. So take your time, preferably 4 guys, 4 women, walk them out, get them to the point where they're almost fully expanded, and then push up the brace to the point that it locks, and now you have a tent that is correctly done. Now you have a tent that's correctly done. All these tents have to be staked in. We'll talk about staking also in a minute. Go ahead.
That's Ken's time.
Yeah, this is looking down again,
That's looking west.
this tent, Ken and Richie, KG2R, KG2
ED.
ED. They take care of that tent. That tent has been there for like 20 years.
Actually, it gets put away every year.
It gets put away. But wait,
Yeah, we left it up this.
oh, we
year.
left it, that's right. No, but the one thing is it was the hardest tent in the rainstorm to take care of. We had such a problem trying to cover it because it's all mesh. The other tents, we have solid sidewalls for, but again, the sidewalls blow in a heavy wind. That created a problem. But this tent was really hard to protect. What do we have there? Just the, again, just a picture of the tent section. Well, you can see the Sprinter. That Sprinter belongs to Martin W1EMR, and we'll talk about that. And also, that is one of our sideband stations. There's minimal setup that's required. Right. Now, this is John's
The Aries trailer.
trailer. It's the Aries trailer. We're going out on various communications events. But that trailer will house we'll see it also later, that houses our digital stations. So bear in mind, if you want to operate, there's two great stations to operate. One is the digital and one is in the Sprinter. Why? Because they're both air conditioned. So if it's a real night, you can be able to do that.
Bring a sweatshirt.
The biggest sweatshirt, it's gonna be really cold.
Because we don't lower the AC, because once you lower it, then it doesn't start back up again.
Okay, and you notice that John also has antennas up. John can set up a mesh network where cameras are all over the place and live stream to Facebook. If we do that again, that'd be great. Go to the next one. Oh, so very often Nassau County Police will stop by. We have a nice relationship with them. They love to see us there. Now, in this one, I want to point out that that was a Ryder truck. For years, we've been renting a Ryder truck. Rob's generosity, Rob has a big truck now. We don't have to go through the expense of renting that truck. That truck, and I don't have a picture of it, because again, I have to do this based on photos that we already had, compared to if I had it written out what I wanted and then take photos of it. In the corner of that truck will be a 30-foot or 40-foot mast, which will serve as the anchor point for dipole antennas. In the past, and I don't remember in the past, we also used that truck as a station, but it was pretty hot in there. We had to get up on the lift and thing, so it wasn't the easiest thing to do.
CW2 and SB1 is separate tents.
Okay, so I was trying to let you know that the two 10x10 white tents, one will have the second CW station. Again, we're going to run two CW, two sideband, and two digital stations. Also a go-to station, get on the air, but we'll talk about that. So one of those white tents will be CW2. The blue tent that you saw before, that was Ken's tent, that's CW1. One of the tents will be sideband 1, that's our main 20-meter station. And then as you go down the line, and again, I don't know where I have it in the images, but
Sprinter was before.
the Sprinter will be sideband 2. And again, John's trailer will be the two digital stations, so that accounts for everything.
Each tent will receive a milk box with a power strip.
Okay, so now. Every station.
What's an extension sword?
That is because I'm short. I used to be 5'9.5", now I'm 5'7". I need a longer sword. That's what it is. You want to argue with that? Good to read. The things you guys pick on, I can't believe it. What is that? That's error number 3, 4, 5. I don't know.
It's 2 on this page. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I'm telling you, it's not me, I'm telling you. Okay. We will have boxes like this. They don't necessarily have to be marked for which station, because they all get the same. So in every box will be, say again?
Clear it, ground dry.
Swedish.
Spirit. Spirit?
The second P is silent.
Oh, man. You know, it's a good thing that I finished my professional career. I would have been- Could you imagine if I was still teaching and doing that? Maybe I was doing that. That's why I had to leave. I don't know, something like that. Oh, my God. You guys have no heart. One of you should just stand up and say it's your fault, you know, and take this responsibility off me. Anyway, so we have. No, that wasn't supposed to be in there.
Stop.
Okay, so. We have one of these for each of the stations. Now, the Sprinter doesn't get it and you don't need it in the van.
No.
Right, so 3 stations get this. The power strip is attached, and ideally, you want it to be up in the air. You want it to be down like this, although it is a board there, but it can be moist, you know, it can be moist. You know, I can make a complete thing, knock the owl over, you know.
You just made everybody online go, ah!
Man, this is a tough crowd. Anyway, so this is gonna be inside the tent. This is protected. Everyone will have a lamp stored.
Lamp with a yellow light, so it doesn't attract
Lamps
the
with
bug.
yellow lights so we don't get affected by the bugs. These lamps work really well. We find most of the times as you point them up, it gives you enough light. It's not glaring. But they will all have yellow bugs, so to keep away from the bugs. And every,
Bulb is blurred with the lamp.
say again,
Yes.
another mistake?
No, no.
Anyway, every one of these boxes will also have a red extension cord. And by the time that this is all done, the generators will be in position, so you'll know exactly where the cord has to be run to the generator. Our generators each have 2 plugs, 2 outlets, and we'll be at least supplying 2 stations. Are we doing a third one? We don't remember.
There is one supplying.
Right, but we'll supply, you know, we'll take care of all of that. Anyway, so everyone is gonna get, those 3 stations will get this box. We may walk it over to you, or we may ask you to pick it up, but it doesn't matter which box it is. One to each of the white tents and one to the blue tent, and that's all from this.
Can I add some info? into
Sure.
this? Richie's talking about 5 different tents being set up, a van, a trailer. There's a captain at each operating station who knows exactly all of this stuff. And they're simply gonna look out at the people who've showed up and say, you 2 guys, could you come here and help us? And this is what you're gonna be doing. But there is someone who knows what, this isn't the training session.
Yeah, you're not left alone to
This is
do.
like an intro.
Yeah, and again, it's just to let you know all the things that have to be done and why 3 people can't do this. It's gotta be a team effort. And even if you come down at 7 o'clock, help us out, have your bagel and go home, we're fine with that. But you can't leave it to this older group of people to be schlepping all of this stuff. We just can't do it. We can't physically do it.
Don't forget to correct it.
Incredible. It's DECR. Probably spelled out there. Okay, what did I say?
Table with chairs,
Okay.
and then the grounding equipment supplied with the grounding rod.
Okay, so every tent, and the 2 white tents will all get 1 table and 2 chairs. There's more if necessary, but most of the time that's more than sufficient. We're gonna have everybody facing out rather than backs to the,
Yes, the opening of the tent is on the sidewalk.
But the operator will be facing,
Facing the sidewalk so that they see visitors passing by and they can pause and welcome them in or explain what we're doing. You
okay,
know, everybody who's there operating that weekend becomes an ambassador of ham radio. Because families and little old ladies walking around this park, this is their park. They're there every weekend and we're strangers and they want to know what we're doing. And it was so nice to see everybody take a moment here or there to explain what we were doing. And it was remarkable. I thought Richie or I were gonna have to go run every time there's a question. No, we had 100 ambassadors to ham radio explaining it. It was really nice.
and you're right in the middle of a residential area. 2 years ago, we had many, many people come down, and last year, not so many, but I really think that coincides with camp. Last year, that was Camp Bowling weekend. This year, the 21st is Camp Go Away, so the following week, parents still should be back home, siblings should be home, so I think it makes for a different type of situation. Now, we use grounding rods in two different circumstances. This is for our antennas, but basically, same principle. Grounding rod goes into the ground if the operators, if we're gonna be facing out, so the grounding rod is really gonna be facing out and we don't have a place out, that's where the radio is gonna be. But we use 4-foot grounding rods, ideally you want an 8-foot, but 4 foot is fine for what we do, bang it in as far as you can. We have sledgehammers to do that, shouldn't be a problem. But we'll make sure that every grounding rod has a clamp. Some of them didn't because this happened to have been an 8-footer that we cut down. Should have a clamp on it. Both the radio and the tuner need to be grounded, not just one wire, and you don't daisy chain them. Each one goes separate ground to this thing. So that's for your own safety at your home, something you learn here in field day. So those 3 stations, where do you ground?
In the ground. In the ground.
In the ground, but you have a ground inside the vehicle? Yeah, okay. And Martin, I think, has his own ground. So again, we're only talking the 3 tents that need this specific thing. And so again, if you do it, that's great. There'll be a sledgehammer if you want to have the fun of doing it. I think we have a slide on that.
A lot more fun driving them in than it is trying to pull them back down.
Okay, ready for next one? It's gonna be the radio. Oops.
Okay, so I want to show you the radios that we're using. Most of them are generally new. And so if you're thinking about getting a radio or just interested in operating a radio that may be an upscale from whatever you're using. So I can't remember what they're offering.
Yaesu FT710.
We bought 2 710s last year. One is being used for CW2, one is being used for sideband 1. It will have a desktop microphone. We'll keep operation as simple as possible on it, but that is a brand new radio. Price wise about $900 if you're looking for a radio. Next one.
756.
This is the 756 Pro, which right now we use for digital, and that radio is probably 30 years old. You can see that there's no color on the monitor on this particular one, although they did come out with other models later on.
So 7,000.
7,000 in the Sprinter.
Okay, the 7,000 has a Sprinter. The Sprinter has a 7,000. And it's, again, nice radio, and we'll see a picture of that in operation in a minute, but we also have another one as a backup. So one fails. These are radios if you have, or again, if you have the opportunity, when this is up on the website, take a look again, see if you're familiar with any of the radios, maybe do a little reading on them, learn a little bit about basic operation, so that you feel comfortable coming down and operating one of the radios.
Go to.
This is the ICOM 718, a very good basic introductory radio. We have one of them now, we might go for a second one. These go, actually new, now they're about $800. But we've been using it for years for some of our demonstration purposes. This one will be used for the go-to station, get on the air. If you have never been on the air, or if you haven't been on the air in 1 year prior to this, you can get on the air. Ken, did they change the rule, or that's the way it is?
The only rule that they changed doesn't affect us.
Okay. Lou?
Yeah, I just want to point out that we'd like as many people as possible to get on the air at this station. You don't have to be licensed. Because you'll be supervised by someone who has the appropriate license.
For all the operating stations, there will be an operator there that could let just a spectator walk in.
That's right.
And especially if it's a kid, we light up if a kid is willing to take the microphone and read what we say. It's a lot of fun.
Which is not.
I take they'll be using the club call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be,
The club has one call for all the stations, and GOTA has a separate call, because it's not part of the tally, the score at the end, it's a different score.
Okay.
The other call sign is WV2LI, and our regular call sign is W2BL.
WV2LI is the go-to station.
Yes.
WV2LI.
Yep.
Okay, so that'll be the go-to station. This is,
The 897.
this is the 897, which is again digital. Matter that it's called the digital 1 or digital 2. That part doesn't matter, but they'll be in the trailer. And one of the things is Ken and Rob do operate a lot of hours. They've been a lot of time, but there's times when you could, if you're interested in FT8, and that's what's running out of there, that you can go in there and run it. So if you're familiar with FT8, once the transceivers are set up, you're not really doing anything other than running the software. So we have the opportunity to spend a good couple of hours in the evening of the night, get some donuts, coffee, and be on FT8.
So one of the things that is important, if we can do it, we have enough slots that every station should be able to operate all 4 hours.
God willing,
And what's
got
that?
to get them on the air first.
God willing.
And the creek don't
Thank you,
rise.
Yeah,
The thunderstorm.
and of course, yeah, thunderstorms and things are obviously affected, but the main thing is, we used to have, at least in my time, I'm not sure that we ever ran everything completely overnight. There was a couple of hours maybe where a station wasn't, but we never had a tremendous amount of time in which something wasn't being used. But it means, coming out of your house, we have, it's Shabbos for an Orthodox Jew who may show up at midnight to do CW for 6 hours, but he can't operate Saturday, but he comes Saturday night. If you just want to get out of your house, again, it's a great environment. I don't know, it's a nice place to be. It's good people, coffee, night, and of course we serve food, just to mention that also.
Contest.
We'll also be running a packet station.
It's an operating activity.
We're running a packet station out of the trailer as well. And we'll be sending out WinLink messages so that somebody shows up with their, somebody wants to show a demonstration of how this all works. We could send them an email by radio to their phone.
Okay. And Charlie will be running a slow scan TV, which is exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. It's a slow scan, but you can scan in a file. You can scan in a picture. And it's fun if you ever have the chance to do it. It's 14229. And just download some of the pictures and you'll see what some of these dirty old men in the South send. But that's a whole different thing that we don't talk a lot about. But LIMARC will send a nice clean card.
Okay.
Uh,
DW1.
if that's gotta be done on 40 meters, right?
20 meters, 14,229.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the ICOM 7300, this one happens to be Ken's radio, and Ken uses it for CW1. But if you do know CW and would like to operate, Ken has no problem grabbing an hour to sleep in the middle of the night. A very popular radio, and so again, the opportunity to come down, these are all reasonably priced radios. They're all in the $1,000 or less range. And so if you're thinking about getting an HF radio, it's really a good opportunity to come down, try them out, see if you like it. Okay, in the past,
We don't do this anymore.
we don't do this anymore, but I just want to point out that the creativity of one of our members was to take probably a 36-foot ladder, 40-foot ladder, something like that. And over the years, develop it into a almost self-sustaining system, where he managed to develop legs to bang into the ground so that you could bring the ladder up, get the antenna mast at the top of the collapsed antenna, get it up and secured. He developed the whole system and then raise it up to the height that you want. I do think that we've opted not to do beams anymore. I do think we'll be selling them at some point. And for some of you, that was just like the opportunity, let's say, to put up a beam for a contest. You know, all you need to do is secure it exactly the way it is, put it up against the shed, tie it down, whatever the case is, get the antenna up there and have fun, take it down at the end of the contest.
I think it can safely be put up with 3 people. Less than that is dangerous.
Okay. Again, I was looking at the ban and
Is the food.
okay, so we have a food tent. Again, breakfast Saturday and Sunday will be bagels, cream cheese. And if everything is the same as it normally is, they're donated by Town Bagel in Belmore. We appreciate that. Not sure what we're gonna do for lunch. But we did opt not to have the droppings from the trees this year. We did feel that was a lot of protein, but maybe more than people really wanted. And in fact, I brought some stuff out from Field Day last year and it still was in there. Something from the trees just dropped down. We're not gonna be doing electric cooking this year. They did give us, you know, I don't know what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. They don't want propane. Okay, it's a park, safety, but we can have a charcoal fire. So it's whatever I can figure out to cook on a charcoal fire. And if I can read the directions correctly, we can have a good meal. Anyway, so we're not sure what we're doing Friday, Saturday for lunch. Sunday will be some kind of a hot meal, but we really threw a lot. Last year, the mistake was while I was making the taco salad, I also made frankfurters. Everybody filled up on the frankfurters and nobody had room for the taco salad. So this year, it's taco salad, baby.
I don't know why, and I taco salad is delicious.
Well, the taco salad was good, but what happened was remember the electric thing just wasn't working well and the legs broke. Bob made a jury rig to hold it up and I'm thinking, oh my God, if it tips over, I'm dead. But it just didn't work out as quickly. And so while I was making the taco salad, I made the frankfurters and everybody filled up on that. And
Just gotta get a food truck.
food truck.
Yeah.
You gotta get it.
But I think Sunday will almost certainly be a barbecue. That'll be hamburgers and frankfurters. That's what we normally do. But we have other things to eat during the course of the day, and we do watermelon, and maybe we'll do some corn this year. So we have we'll be feeding you. You won't have to worry about that, and plus snacks and water and soda.
Thanks, right up the street.
What do you want?
Thanks barbecue, right up the street.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a little more expensive than our
That's
budget allows.
Friday night.
Okay, so this is a reminder too that there are just things that sometimes have to be moved.
You mentioned that we will be selling the beams. Don't forget about the triplexes.
Yes,
I don't think we need it this
we don't, I don't know if there's
No, but the
anyone
point is-
here,
We should sell them
yeah,
while they're still valuable.
yeah. We have a triplex, and triplex are allowed a 10, 15, and 20 meter beam to be broken down into its 3 frequencies using filters. Now you can take one beam and have 10, 15, and 20 all operating off of that beam. The main reason being that each frequency finds its own resonant, well, there were traps in there anyway, so it found its own resonant frequency, and that's the amazing part of electricity. They don't, well, not electricity, but resonance in antennas, none interferes with the other. You have two different frequencies transmitting at the same time. Okay. That's just the sign again,
Sign, yeah.
okay. And again, just look there.
Where is everybody?
Well,
Richie made sure to take pictures when no one was around.
yeah, well, some of these pictures also might have been John Caramango, who took quite a few pictures, and unfortunately passed away. I'm looking for one that has a stick in it. That one has a stick.
The stick in its out.
Okay, so let's talk about the stick. So we have a bunch of these, and somewhere along the lines, we lost the bottom, which is not what we want to do. So we use garden stakes, the 5 foot, 4 foot green solid stakes into the ground. And then we strap this to that pole, to that green stick. And then coming out of it, the very tip should have had something on top of it, but you can see how fragile it is. It always breaks off. I'm trying to see what else we can do. We actually could put we could put an O-ring on top here. It's not going to matter.
There
right?
are ferrules you can get on Amazon for fishing rods.
Right,
and
Farrell will do it,
super
yeah.
glue Works perfect.
The reason why this is a problem, because you have to do what I just did, which is to turn it over. So, hold on 1 second. Just pull that for you.
It's actually the swivel.
Lost it, George.
You lost it.
You drop that.
Go inside.
Can't be president, George.
Sorry, there's a couple of pieces that hit the floor.
There are many tubes inside that if you twist them together, they stick. And this thing keeps going on and on and on for 30 or 40 feet, depending on which model it is. It's telescopic. And once we secure each section, then we pound a garden fence stake into the ground, and we can attach a wire up and down the, and that becomes an antenna, a plain single wire of antenna. It's called a random wire antenna, and it works because of this little box that does the magic. And
Okay, now for the record, this is not a random wire. It's based upon being less than a quarter wave of an antenna, which is interesting. Random wire is a 45-to-1 unknown, right, Lou? Let me explain though.
Okay.
Because I wanted to go through it with you. We don't care if you feel comfortable doing this. You understand, we're putting a garden stake into the ground, attaching this to the garden stake, and then we're gonna start lifting the elements. As you're lifting the elements, we're gonna have a specific length of wire with each of these. Now, are we using the same one every 35/6? Is that the one that we're using?
What's it?
On the length of the wire, are we using 35/6?
35.5 or
35.5.
29, depends on what you want to do for that.
Do we want to standardize it or we're not sure?
What?
Do we want to standardize or each one's gonna be different?
I left it up to the captains, but we could decide. You have some sticks that are long, that can handle, right? Don't you have a 40-foot stick?
I think that we're gonna get a 40-foot stick. I don't think
Okay.
we have one now. But even if you have the 35 in the short, so we just bring it out horizontally anymore. All right, so here's the thing, it's been braced. As you're pulling it out, you're bringing the wire out with it, but you need to tape. Okay, so you're gonna take black tape,
That's why I said you've got to buy a federal.
now remember, this is the wire that's resonating, so we're not worried about the tip being bare copper or anything, it has no effect on it. So we're taping, and then as we go up, we're gonna come to the next section. There's friction, that's why I have to tape it well. There's friction between the sections, so you're gonna pull it tight and even twist a little bit. That's still not a guarantee that the vibration in the wind is gonna keep it up. We've just seen them come down. But at every intersection, tape the wire down. You want that wire to be straight. It's going to give added support to this antenna as it goes up. You come to the next section, pull it out tight, twist it slightly, tape the wire down, go around it. Okay, and then you're just gonna keep going up until you get to the bottom. Now, if it comes straight down, if the wire does come straight down, if we're using a longer pole, then we'll end at the bottom, we'll explain what to do. But if not, if you have to come out horizontally to get to the grounding rod, that's fine also. Now, if you've done this correctly, the problem is always that they do collapse pretty easily. But again, if you tape it, it will hold up. Okay, it's the last one. And we will try to put a tip on it to make it easier for everyone to, in fact, I'm gonna leave the tape on there for now. Now, technically, because we say that you do learn technical stuff also. And it's honestly, it's not something that I'd really thought about. The wire comes down. You're gonna have a ground rod, but obviously before you place the ground rod, make sure of how much you need to do. If you're close to the antenna, that's fine, if that's where the wire comes down. But if the wire is longer than you're coming down to the base, just bring it over horizontally and bring it over to this unit. This unit is called an un-un. It's bringing unbalanced line, which is a single line, like that, to an unbalanced line, which is coaxial cable. So this is bringing those two things together. In this particular case, the length of the wire is non-resonant on any frequency. So when you're transmitting, it's not going to put out any spurious radiation into any frequency. That's why these specific lengths that we do are very important. Again, this particular thing is great for your backyard if you have limited space. I used it for a while until I put up a gap tightened antenna. But again, so it's going to an un-un. This is a transformer. This is a 9-to-1 transformer. And that is because this wire going up this specific distance is at 450 ohms. To bring it down to 50 ohms, which is the coaxial cable, you use a 9-to-1 un-un. Just for reference, a random wire is requires a 45-to-1 un-un to bring that down to the 50 ohms that you need. That's just nature playing games with us, telling us that certain antennas just have different impedances, and that's what you got to work with. So anyway, say again?
Is that a white or a red on?
This is a red onion. It's not spicy. In a pinch, I can throw it into the taco salad. Okay, now the other point is you have two halves to the antenna. One half is the 35 feet going up. The other half is the ground. So this goes into the ground as far as you can get it. Sometimes they go in and we get stuck. So you have to, we have pliers and things to help get it out, but don't worry about that. It's got to be pounded into the ground. You're attaching the, each on is a little bit different, but you have one side that's going to the coaxial cable. And remember, coaxial cable is an unbalanced line. Everything's being carried in the center conductor. And then you have two connections on top, screw types. And what we'll try to do is to make sure that we have spade lugs, so it's easy for you to attach. One spade lug goes to the antenna, one spade lug goes to this ground wire. So this is the setup of these antennas, and this is mostly what we're using aside from dipoles. Okay, what else?
That's the Sprinter, the inside of the Sprinter.
All right, this is Harry inside the Sprinter using the ICOM 7000. And that sideband 2, and we'll talk more about how the station breaks down, but sideband 1 will stay on 20 meters almost for certain the whole 24 hours. It's a very active band. It just remains active for most of the 24 hours. Sideband 2 has the option of doing 10, 15, 40, or 80. 80 being in the middle of the night, and probably the best band to be using. But they can flip around any of those stations. And again, that's using the 7,000 in the air-conditioned sprinkler. What is that one? I can see.
The trailer,
Oh, trailer at night.
party lights.
Yeah,
The party deck is lit.
yep. Next,
Ride a truck.
oh, up against the lights again, right?
Yeah.
See, that's the other nice part of it, that the park is lit up. It's not totally bright, the lights that run on the ball field, they're not on, but all these street lights. So you're not as isolated as you were when we were at Rosemary Kennedy Center, and it was really dark as we moved from our tent to the bathroom, usually is what it was. Okay, so this is what we need.
Holy cow, it's not one error on that.
I have to think who my ghostwriter was for that one.
Was every word necessarily needed to be in caps?
Say again?
Was it necessary to put a capital in every word?
And you did.
Well, sometimes I do, but that's excusable. You know, I mean, seriously, I mean, because you don't know the problem. My one eye sees one thing, my other eye sees another thing, and sometimes they get together, but sometimes they don't. And then the worst part is that when there is an error, they both see the same error the same way. So they just keep doing the same thing. They never correct it. It's crazy. Anyway, so what we need is what we need is
It is.
you gotta help us out. We don't demand anything of you, but we just can't do it. We're gonna have probably minimum of 12 loads of stuff on these carts going from the second floor down to the first floor. We need to keep it a steady caravan. Some of the stuff that we're moving is on the heavier side. This year, we really want to make a concerted effort at field day to consolidate everything, throw out what we don't need, lighten the load, but right now, this is what it is. We need you there at 2 o'clock. We don't need you to go to the field that night because hopefully things are loaded in the truck in such a way that when Rob drives the truck around the perimeter, he'll be able to drop things off where they have to go. But we need you there at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. Again, we're going to start immediately getting the big tent up, and if we have enough of you, we'll have the small tents up. Don't rush it. We want to also deal with how to stake things. I was going to deal with the knots. We stake the tents down in different ways. Some of them have a cord which has a little slide lock on it. Just pull the cord, lock it, and it stays. Some of them you have to do it yourself. And there's a specific knot that we use. I think there's time down there to show you how to do it. It's very simple, but it's one of those counterintuitive knots. When you pull it, to tighten it, it tightens. It's not intuitive to me. You would think it would loosen because you're pulling, but it doesn't. It locks. It's actually locking against itself, but we'll deal with that. So 7 o'clock, we need that. We'll set up the tents. Then we'll stop for breakfast. And then if we haven't put the tables out, we'll put the tables out and the chairs. Once that's done, we'll have the boxes of the electrical cables, the power strips, the lamps. We'll get that over into the tents, and then we'll start to bring out the equipment. Once the equipment is in place on the tables, you find a place for the stakes go in the ground, the equipment gets grounded. Both again, the tuner. Now here's the reason why we still use tuners. The antennas that we use very often will need much more than a 3-to-1 ratio to bring in the signal. The tuners all almost all tuners, I guess, on standard radios are only 3-to-1. Our antennas sometimes need greater than that. The auto tuners, we didn't have much success with, so we're using manual tuners, and we will have instructions on how to use those. They're pretty simple. Basically, just tune for the loudest sound that you're getting out of the tuner. But you know, it's playing with basically two different dials. But that tuner must also be grounded. And again, under no circumstances, daisy chain, because that doesn't do any good. You need each unit grown to its own. You can go to the same grounding rod, but that's not the same as that as daisy chaining. The other thing is, once everything is established and the poles are in place, and again, Rob will have those all marked out where they go, then we'll lay out the coaxial cable. The coaxial cable is marked by its footage. We have some runs that we know are 200 feet, some runs that are 100 feet. We don't want to do what we did last year and connect coaxial cable from one antenna to another antenna. That it doesn't propagate very well.
Bounces back and forth.
It was just one of those things that happened. It was-
Stereo invented.
Yeah, you know, it was just two ends not talking to one another. So we want to make sure that once everything is in place and once you know which is the antenna that you're going to, that you'll then take that run of 200 feet or 100 feet and bring it to the appropriate place. The other thing that we want to make sure, because we've been lazy about it, we use some of the dipoles later in the day, and sometimes it's the last thing to go up. Well, sometimes when it's the last thing to go up, other things get in the way and we forget to put the dipoles up. So it's really important, dipoles belong in the air, not on the ground. So we want to make sure that that's taken care of. Once we go through the day, we need operators. If you're comfortable in a microphone, there'll be someone there to help you. The exchange is very simple. We're going to be W2VL. We are 6 alpha, that's our designation, and we are in the NLI section, New York, Long Island. Other stations will come back with their information. It's that exchange of the information and correctly noting it that is what gives us credit for having made that particular connection. But that's the whole exchange. If you're comfortable with CW, then we'll probably, in some cases, we use an automatic key, press a key and the message goes out. In other cases, you can use a key if that's what you like. But even if you don't know CW, we can use you to be logging, because the operator will tell you, I just worked K6 LAQ. He'll tell you, all you have to do is enter that. You don't have to read the code. But that operator can now operate that much more quickly because he has someone logging. So we need operators and we need loggers. And loggers can become operators and operators can become loggers. We'll try to make sure that no one is, you know, we have people obviously that love what they're doing and they stay on the radio for a long period of time, but we'll try to make sure that there's breaks so that everyone has an opportunity to operate. But basically, that's another function that we need. For our 20-meter station to have remained vacant for a good couple of hours last year, that absolutely makes no sense. Now, just to give you an example, I can operate the station at the site with no problem. For me to log would be almost impossible. But I can operate it so I can log. So that would mean I could have operated a 20-meter station. I just couldn't do it by myself. So think about staying overnight. There's food. Be prepared to put on long clothing because of, possible bugs, because it does get a little cooler down there by the water. But you can catch some sleep. There's chairs to sleep on. I catch a few hours sleep each time we're there. It's not an impossible situation, and we do have a lot of fun hanging out at night. So give all of those things consideration. And I think, is that it?
Is the last slide.
That's the last one?
Last slide.
Oh, that was the last slide. Okay, any questions?
Great. One thing that wasn't on the slide that we added is that all the way to the southwest, where we don't use field, that's camping. And we do have a few people who are camping out there.
At the southwest where.
The far area.
The far
where we
area.
used to
When you drive in.
Red walking down to,
Okay,
that's,
so if you want to camp out there, if you have a camper or if you have a tent that's comfortable enough, there is a camping. Well, will be set up beside of the camp. That'd be a long walk after the back.
not necessarily.
Easy to use, and not really hard.
Well, Martin would camp out there.
Yeah, but that's fine. You're really gonna be as far away from noise and everything else as possible, so you really can get some sleep. And again, if that means staying over and getting up early, 5 o'clock in the morning to get on the air, that would be great. And again, we don't force you to do it, it's kind of a thing, it can't be left to us older people. You know, it's just, we just can't do it. So we need more people, even if you're a person our age, more people it is definitely helps. And definitely the younger people, we need you to come down and help us do. And it should be successful. We have a lot of fun. It's a mix of whether we're doing a contest or having fun. We really try to do both. We really do try to do both, but it doesn't do any good if nobody's out there operating. So we'll have more information about it. We'll give out T-shirts. Yeah, again, have a T-shirt sign up, or we do that later. Is that on there?
No.
Okay, so sometime in the next few weeks, if you're gonna be there, we'll maybe take your sign up and send you an email. If you're gonna be there, we'll do a T-shirt for you. Just let us know your size. Part of the problem is we always prepare for a lot of people, and I hate to have T-shirts left at the end. Once again, it costs a lot of money. So let us know. We'll have T-shirts for you. We can go up to, pretty much any size, doesn't matter. And that's a gift from LIMARC. So all these T-shirts or some of them that you see, people like them, they collect them, they wear them during the year. Any other questions?
I just wanted to point out that nobody should be intimidated by any of these things, because it's a great time and place to practice operating, even if you haven't operated for a long time. It's the way you get into the functions.
And talking on an HF radio is no different than talking on a 2-meter radio.
Yeah, exactly the same. And again, you'll see what a pilot is when you have many stations calling the same station, and how difficult it is sometimes to pull that station out and get the call sign correct. But it's operating procedure, things that you can take back to your home, and whether you're in a technician class or doing the HF, it's a learning experience. And again, don't feel intimidated. Nobody's going to yell at you. Nobody's going to say you did something wrong. It takes 2 minutes to learn what to do. You know, even if you're uncertain, and projecting your voice, that's really important, because some people don't get that. They talk very slowly, and you're not going to be heard. So you learn to project your voice. That's part of communications. You learn to drop the microphone. Communications.
Right, you don't want to swallow the mic.
Yeah, no, I swallow.
Nobody can understand you then.
Exactly. You'd be underwater. Again, most of the stations will have, let me think about it. The sideband 1 will have a desk mic, sideband 2, I think, has a handheld, not a desk mic. Yeah, but it's fine, doesn't matter. Anyone else with any questions?
I just want to add one more comment. Ideally, every operating position should have 2 operators. Because number one, it's a question of what you hear. If it's a manual reception. The other thing is, I was thinking, I used to operate with Steve when he was WA2 DHF. I don't know how many remember him, but yeah, I would operate on 75 meters with him. And he would call a station, he would dominate the frequency. In those days, we ran a kilowatt. You get a pileup. You get 4, 5, 6 stations calling you at once. You have to sort that out. He would always go back and ask for a repeat. You gotta make sure, just say you do it right, and check that you're getting the right information.
And again, the reason why we practice that is that if you were involved in emergency communications, the last thing in the world is that you don't want to replay a telephone. You don't want to have the wrong information, a wrong address, a wrong number. So by repeating and making sure that you've gotten the correct, and we'll talk more about that in the next session in June. But you want to make sure that that information is correct, and that's what it's really all about. And remember, it's a North American event. North America being the United States, Canada, I guess, Mexico also participates to some extent. So it's,
DX stations sometimes call in too, and the exchange for them is just DF.
right, other stations may call in. But anyway, it's a fun event, it's getting to know people. Again, you get to know people by call signs, by names, and then it's just, that's what we need, you know, as a club. We need people knowing each other, not everybody just in their own worlds, not everybody so far removed. That camaraderie is important, getting to, look, you may hate somebody, that's okay too. You know, you come and say, I've never talked to that guy again, well, that's okay, but keep coming to our meetings, that's fine. But again, it's just a great experience, so next month we'll feel more about it. Any other questions about it? Okay, so let's move on to,
Just remember, it actually is a lot of fun.
spelled F-U-N.
Spelled THUN.